Okay, so I'll be honest with you. I have never been a fan of Officer Tatum. And in fact, I think my lucky stars this man is still not a police officer anymore. It's kind of interesting. He's been a police officer maybe around 5 years, and he thinks he's this authority on people. And police officers make mistakes all the time, but he has a unjustifiable bias towards black people, and he thinks just because he's black, he's automatically right, even though he doesn't freaking any black community circles. He has married to a white woman. I can only imagine with the conversations like that in his household. But he has a very strong hatred towards black people that if Uncle Ruckus was a real person, he will 100% be Officer Tatum. And I did watch about 5 minutes of this interview with Nancy Grace, and we're going to watch it together, the full thing that came out yesterday, I want to say, that he was acting like a good boy. Now, whenever you saw him, he was talking to any black person, talking about them or to them, like D.L. Hughley or what have you. He would have so much gumption and aggression, and he'll talk so much crap. But when it came to Nancy Grace, he acted like a little boy, like he was a student talking to his teacher or a parent, and he didn't want to disappoint them or get chastised. And also, Nancy Grace did go easy on Tatum from what I saw so far. Now, let's go ahead and get into this. I'll give more of my feedback as we're watching this. I'm looking at this on Nancy Grace's YouTube page. Let's see. I don't see her channel name on here, but it is in a link in the comments. This is fair use. I hope you guys have a great day. Please let's watch and discuss this.
Bombshell tonight. In the last 24 hours, Nolan Wells' family hits social media giants, subpoenaing Nolan's accounts. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Now, if I'm being honest with you, I hope Nolan's family sue everybody, especially Officer Tatum.
If he was sent face down, that also doesn't make sense to me. If he's face down, wouldn't blood pool just by nature of gravity this way?
So right now we've got a lot of questions, but as the second doctor says, this is all still pending investigation.
If this were your child, wouldn't you want to know what happened?
The mom asked for Nolan's phone.
Right.
Was there a struggle over it, or did you guys hand it over?
I mean, just handed it over. I mean, we didn't think anything of it. Like, she asked for Nolan's phone. We knew they were close friends with, the Wells family, and my buddy went out to his truck and handed the phone over. No complications, no issue, nothing. But I mean, I told Miss Christine that we had his phone and he had left it in our possession on the boat.
When did you talk to her about that?
And you see, here's the thing I don't like about Tatum, right? He's supposed to be an officer and they have some level of investigation skills. They're supposed to be unbiased. But if you ever listen to anything he has ever said before his whole entire life, he automatically has a strong positive bias by anybody white. Let's just call it for what it is. So for him to sit here and listen to these stories and automatically think that it's true and they're innocent and everything else, that's a horrible thing. That's why I say he must have been a horrible police officer. I'm not going to get into the facts of how many black Americans or just black people in general that has been unjustifiably imprisoned and then found innocent. That's not part of this conversation. But it's men like him are part of the most dangerous men in America, because what ends up happening is they're so disloyal to their own people that they will sell us out for $1, all the while he will get stabbed by the people he's worshiping and go back for more. There's no self-love, self-preservation about this man.
When I was I didn't talk to her once, like it was like 12:30. I mean, I might have texted her a couple times and talked briefly about a couple things, but I told her on the phone before I called the Coast Guard that we had Nolan's phone. Before I called Miss Christine, none of us had a reason to go through Nolan's phone. I mean, there's multiple phones on the boat. Why would it be? And the boat was having issues. Why would our concern be getting on Nolan's phone or something? I mean, I don't even know Nolan's password. None of my friends do. We had no reason ever to get on Nolan's phone and look at anything. I didn't even touch Nolan's phone. None of us touched Nolan's phone until somebody took it off the boat and put it in Wyatt's truck, and then no one touched it until we handed it back, to the mom that was at my buddy's house.
That is from the Officer Tatum show. He has interviewed several of the young men that were on the boat when Nolan Wells was taken to Horn Island. They say he was not on the boat on the return trip, although audio seems to suggest otherwise. Listen.
And let me backtrack a little bit. I saw that they had the tip line. And here's the thing, right? Where'd it go? Did I lose it? Let me go back right here.
No reason ever to get on Nolan's phone and look at anything. I didn't even touch Nolan's phone. None of us touched Nolan's phone until somebody took it off the boat and put it in Wyatt's truck, and then no one touched it until we handed it back, to the mom that was at my buddy's house.
That is from the Officer Tatum show. He has interviewed several of the young men that were on the boat when Nolan Wells was taken to Horn Island. They say he was not on the boat on the return trip, although...
Okay, and that's why I wanted to rewind back. I wanted to go ahead and post a tip line. Nolan Wells found unalive, tip line. Jackson County Sheriff's Office Department, phone number 228-769-3063, $125,000 reward. I believe the $125,000 reward, if it leads to a conviction, you just don't get it just because you call. And here's the thing. If several of his friends know things that they know what happened, they have all this evidence or proof of what didn't happen, and instead of going to the mom and to the attorney Ben Crump, or this call the tip line at the very least, they're doing these interviews with a man who's a known race baiter. Them doing interviews with Tatum automatically, to me, discredits them, because he's not going to push back. He's not going to question it. He's just going to automatically believe them and make excuses for him, because he has such a love for them and hatred towards us. He must try to believe anything they say. And again, nobody's saying that he was, the M word. However, though, we are going to say is it seems very suspicious, and there should be a much better investigation. But unfortunately, because of where this happened at Ocean Springs, Mississippi, there's not going to be one. If I'm being honest with you, in my heart, there's much stuff that I've seen in the South, growing up in the South, living in the South, it's going to get covered up. And in fact, it would have already been covered up if it didn't get this national attention. And I think that's why so many people are upset, because they didn't expect for a young black man to get this much support from everyone, because it just seems dirty all around.
Audio seems to suggest otherwise. Listen to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources call.
Why are you still using bots for your meetings? How else am I going to remember what happened? Just use granola. Okay.
Detail assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd you say? Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
Now, everybody has heard this audio by now and seen it. And my thing about this audio is that I hate how these major outlets are cutting certain segments out or saying that it's up to your own interpretation. Even though there have been multiple enhancements done on this audio, there is even a young man, I won't say young man, he was a man, who showed that if you have some noise canceling headphones out, it would filter out the background noise for you, so you can hear it better too. So many people have shown different ways you can hear the audio clear as day, but they're still trying to find out in it. And it's very frustrating to see some crap like this.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either I think it's try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership like guaranteed. I don't
All
have the
right.
tag
Unless
on
you
here.
have
It
a
got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
Reach me at 2.
Particular phrases in that call, if it's to be believed, Nolan, don't die. Sure, he's dead. Is he dead? Nolan, OMG. Wake the F up. It goes on. I thought he was on the check his chest.
And, you know, and people dare wanting to say that that was them talking about the engine. So their engine is named Nolan.
That, if it's to be believed, suggests that Nolan was on that boat. Tatum says the witnesses are clear. He was not on the boat. Tonight, we learned in the last 24 hours, the Nolan Wells family hits social media giants with subpoenas for all information related to Nolan's phone. First, straight out to Dave Matt Crime Stories investigative
to push out videos of what he was doing and pictures. And they're trying to
this into the investigation of the teen college football
And I'm going to go ahead and skip this. This is an hour long. I'm trying to get to the Tatum part of it. Give me one moment.
player's mysterious death. They want IP addresses associated with every videos. Now, joining us, special
All right, here we
guest
go.
Brandon Tatum. You know him well. He's a former police officer with Tucson PD. That's what impresses me. What impresses a lot of other people is he is the star of The Officer Tatum. Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us tonight. Question to you. You interviewed, as we played at the get-go, several of Nolan's friends. Did they show you photos, videos, snaps of that day on Horn Island?
Well, Nancy, thank you so much for having me on. I spoke to 4 of the boys that are originally accused of being involved in Nolan Wells' death.
And let me say this. He interviewed 4 of the friends, right? None of this evidence that proved him innocent, he hasn't turned over to the police. But he's so vehemently sticking up for these guys. In addition to, he's over here profiting off of this. He has made a multi-series off of this, making buku amounts of money. Oh man, I can't speak my mind because I'm on YouTube, but he's just a disgusting human being. And eventually he will get his karma.
And they did show me a lot of evidence. I want people to be very clear with this. I spent my career putting people in jail. My career is based on getting justice for people who have been done wrong.
I wonder how many of those people that were done wrong were black. And how many people he just unjustified arrested and put them away because they were black. It kind of like one of those things, and I'll get back to this in a minute. If you think about it for a second, it's like if a woman accused a black man, let's say it's a white woman accused a black man of DV, right? There'd be plenty of other people that say that didn't happen, she attacked him, whatever else. But because she's crying and she's white, he's going to automatically believe the woman and arrest the black man. Let's say there's like a robbery situation and there's a bunch of people in the crowd. He's going to be the person that profiles a black person right away, while all the while it was white people that actually did it. He's a person that looks at black and sees guilty. And he goes on later to slander Nolan's name, who was known as a good kid, a good athlete, a leader, a sociable, personable. And he goes on to say all kinds of stuff about Nolan in another video I'll get into. But let's go ahead and continue.
I've never been a defense attorney. So me going out and doing this was to find out what happened to Nolan Wells. And in talking to these young men, the burden of proof is they're going to have to prove to me. I'm not going to listen to what they say out of their mouth. They're going to have to show me. And in many cases, they showed me videos of Nolan on the island. They showed me videos of the boat when they were getting towed out, which is consistent with, you know, kind of similar to what the phone call was. I mean, they showed me pictures of them with Nolan. They showed me phone records of them calling Nolan's mom and all of the above. So they seemed very consistent. They seemed very genuine. And they also proved to me some of the things that they had told me in the interview that I had with them that I have uploaded on my YouTube channel.
Officer Tatum, Are you telling me that they had reception on Horn Island? Because many people are saying, well, the reason that there's nothing on Nolan's phone of that day, like there's no pictures, there's no snaps, there's no text, there's no anything, not because it was deleted, but because he didn't have reception. But you're telling me the other boys did have snaps, photos, videos, and reception?
Yeah, no, Nancy. Let me clarify this for you.
You see, whenever you're talking to somebody that has somewhat of an education and somewhat some common sense and discernment, he doesn't hold up well.
wasn't that they uploaded this online. They showed me videos and things that they took from the boat during the outing on 4th of July. I was personally out at Horn Island. I rode out there on a boat, and I didn't have great reception there. And I left my phone in the boat when I got into the water and we were actually going out to do interviews.
Objection. Objection. You've been in court long enough to know you're going to get objections. You said you didn't have great reception, but you did have reception, did you not?
No, there was reception there. It just wasn't great, and it wasn't great enough for people, in my opinion, to upload. You can make a phone call potentially, but you wasn't going to upload data to a social media account. Now, could people take the steps to do it if they're dedicated enough? Yes, but it doesn't appear that would have been a frequent thing, given the fact that you probably had 1 or 2 bars out there. And I heard evidence of that. Not only did I see evidence of it when I went out there myself personally with my cell phone, when I listened to the CETO call, you could tell that the call dropped out several times. It seemed like they were having trouble at times hearing each other. So it is consistent. And anybody that travel out.
Man, he has talked a lot. It's a simple yes or no question, man.
Out there that have gone to the 4th of July celebration, they know that the reception is not very great. So the videos that they showed me in call logs were things that were not associated to social media, that they never posted on social media. It was, pictures and videos that they took on their phone.
Okay. Let me refine my question. I take it from your last answer that the answer is yes, you had reception on Horn Island.
Yes, I did have reception on Horn Island.
Oh.
We just...
So if he had reception on Horn Island, and let's say that if Nolan got left, he wasn't able to see, speak, or talk to anybody else, his one lifeline he could have had his cell phone the kids had. So let's say if Nolan stayed behind, let's believe the story as it is. Nolan stayed behind because he was going to talk to a girl. I forgot her name right now. And let's say she left on the boat and just left him there. He has no cell phone. Who he's going to call? Am I the only one that's thinking like this? Like, okay, well, this is just some bullshit. Let's just call it for what it is. And if you were going to leave, why would you leave your friend by his cell phone? I would think, and most cell phones, they can handle a little bit of water, right? Most cell phones, you could dip in some water for a short time. So they could say, hey, we're leaving. And they toss him his phone. I don't know. Seems like some negligence to me.
Just played that CETO call. It's 2 words, SEATOW, and it's kind of insurance that people have that are boat goers. And if you have a problem, CETO will come and tow you back to the mainland. They said they had a problem. They said they were taking on water. One of your takes is that all the chatter that we're hearing, wake up, Nolan, are you dead, Nolan, wake the F up, Nolan, could be referring to the battery, the bilge on the boat, that it's all unclear. Regarding the boat being disabled, apparently it was not.
Maintenance fee, overdraft fee, minimum balance fee, maximum balance fee, banking fee.
Listen.
So first at 9:50.
So here's my thing before we go ahead and continue with this, right? He never really answered a question on that interview about what he thought it was when it came to them saying, wake up, Nolan, is he dead? All this other kind of stuff. He never answered. So she kind of gave him an out by going to this video. I hope she comes back and address that question with him. What did he think what did he think? What did Tatum think those kids said during the beginning of that phone call where they didn't think it was being recorded? And keep in mind, for anybody that's out there, just because you hear music doesn't mean you're not being recorded. If you ever worked in a call center job or anything along those lines, you could put somebody on hold where that person on the other line hears music, but you hear everything they're saying. It's very common. Anyway, let's see what they say on here real quick.
56 a.m. The boat leaves the original dock. It arrives at Horn Island at 11:14. So at around 4 o'clock, there is a call to the Coast Guard about the boat. NBC News got a hold of it.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Everybody's on board. So does that mean Nolan is on there? Who was on that boat? At 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island and it is towed approximately 3 miles, and then the tow ends. So after 3 miles, they go back to the original dock, okay? They arrive at 5:44 p.m. So it looks like this is where Horn Island is, and this is where the original dock is that I am referring to. I looked it up, and El Camino Real Road is in Gulf Hills, Mississippi, which is right above Ocean Springs. So I'm wondering if this is the house where they got the phone. Now, the boat travels to Fort Bayou.
Hell, I could tell that's a nice house from this view. That was a big ass pool. Y'all saw that?
At 6:06, the boat returns to the original dock. Then, from the original dock, the boat goes back to Fort Bayou, and then they go to the boat launch, and it is put onto the trailer and moved by the vehicle. Did they drop people off at the original dock, travel to Fort Bayou, pick somebody up, and go back to that original dock? And then from there, why was there an hour and 13-minute time gap? This boat was sinking hours before, and then they're just having it docked for an hour and 13 minutes. You would think they'd want to get that boat out of the water ASAP.
Now, to play devil's advocate on this one particular part, and even though I'm saying this, I don't necessarily believe it. I want to make that very clear. Just because your boat is sinking doesn't mean you can't figure it out sometimes. And what I mean by that is, supposedly the grandfather was involved. He could have walked them through it. Right? Or this is such a situation and be like, you know what? You'll be fine. I'll come out and get it later. I don't know. But I do tend to agree. If you're sinking, your first thing should be to get that boat out as soon as possible, in my opinion, but I'm not a boater, so I don't know. So if you're a boat person, if you do a lot of boating, let me know in the comments. But that's just me playing devil's advocate for that one particular part.
That from the real TikTok detective, the boat wasn't sinking. They told Cito it was sinking. What's the truth? Was it sinking and they repaired it? Did they have a leak and they repaired it and kept on SOP? Brandon Tatum joining us, former cop, now star of the Officer Tatum. Did the young man explain those travels we just identified?
Okay, so I was hoping she was going to go back and ask him about the recording and what he thought he heard at the beginning of the recording. Because on his personal channel, he's been doing a lot of doubt and shade on there. It wasn't up until TMZ kind of confirmed it, and then even TMZ left out part of the recording. But thank goodness Benjamin Crump has that recording. But let's go ahead and continue here.
Yeah, 100% they did that. I wish that people on the internet would have had an opportunity, and they can go look at the interview that I did with Warren, but they had an opportunity to actually talk to these young men to get this in perspective, because some people have no idea how boats function and how they work. They explained to me, they took me on a boat and showed me exactly where they went, where they docked, where did they, stop at, how did they get the bilge pump.
On what boat? On what boat did he go on? Because I kind of feel like whatever boat that they went on, let's say it was a boat that Nolan was on, wouldn't that be kind of evidence? I don't know, but the Mississippi police kind of closed this really fast. I mean, they said there was no wrongdoing after, a day or two? So I don't think it was a full 48 hours before they said they saw there was no wrongdoing. The good old boy system, it'll do that for you. If it was, and what we're saying is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a racial component of why Nolan lost his life, but it is a racial component of how fast they're trying to close and cover this up. And that's part of the frustration of the situation. It is very hard for me to not understand why people don't understand that. Let's be 100% clear. If Nolan was white, they would move over every single stone in the state of Mississippi and all the islands around there, Horn Island, Cat Island, whatever, to find out what happened. But because Nolan is black, they wanted to cover this up and close it really fast. They just didn't expect that his parents, for one, are not broke, two, not hood, and three, found a way to garner support of the community and the nation as a whole. So now it's making that whole department area look horrible, and I think that's why there's such a delay when it comes to the autopsy. But let's continue.
In the water out of the boat and all of the above. So they were sinking. They were taking on water. The water came up high enough that the batteries weren't working. They had to get a tow to kind of tow them out, where you could see the young lady saying about 3 miles out. It's a complicated boat's jargon, but they ended up getting the boat out. They ended up getting it to the point where they could run the boat, run the water.
If it's that complicated, then he don't understand it himself. I never liked that. If something is complicated and you can't explain it to me, that means you don't fully understand it yourself. That's just my opinion of it.
Out of the boat through a hole in the boat that they ended up plugging. They explained all this. Anybody that does boating know exactly what they're talking about if you hear them explain it on the interview. So they have an explanation for all of these things. And not only...
You know what's very interesting? I know I keep doing a lot of pauses, but it's easy to sound like it's easy to sound like you know what you're talking about when you're explaining to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. So to Tatum, who most likely don't know anything about boats, because if he did, he would try to explain them better to Nancy Grace. So they could have got one over on him. He was like, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Because why? Because they're white.
That, Nancy, they showed me video of them on the boat, and Nolan was not on the boat. Nolan was not on the boat log, and there are people who saw Nolan on the island closer to around 6 p.m., which is far after they left, far after this phone call was made. I saw text messages from the young lady that Nolan was with, the young lady named Katie. I saw her text messages. In her text messages, she said that she heard the boys yelling for Nolan to get on the boat. He did not. She said in her text message that she did not see Nolan get on the boat he came on, which was Wyatt's boat, which is the boat that was sinking and they ended up leaving on. So it wasn't just a statement that they made on a podcast. They were actually showing me evidence to the contrary of what the mainstream YouTubers and some media outlets are putting out to people at large. And so I wish that people would go watch the interview or at least take some time.
My God, ain't nobody want to watch your damn interview, man.
To listen to these boys' statements. And I'll say this, Nancy, too. I wish that the family would have taken the time, or at least Benjamin Crump would have taken the time to reach out to the lawyers or reach out to these young boys to get their statements so they're not wasting their time sending everybody on a rabbit trail when they could have just talked to these boys. And they could have, but they refused. Because I saw a message from Warren where he called Nolan's mom twice.
You know what? This is the same man that cried over another white man Charlie Kirk, who lost his life, the same man that said that he wouldn't even cry if his own kid passed away, but his beloved white man passed away, shedded tears. A black husband and wife lost their son. So, what he expected them to be the most reasonable and logical people on this earth. And granted, they have been, given the circumstances, given the misdirections and everything else. Why would you trust people that lost all your trust? Think about it for a minute. Let's just be reasonable for a minute. You trusted these people to have your son to go out to an island. That means you trusted them enough to make sure he came back home. They broke the trust with the family when Nolan didn't come back home. But again, Tatum doesn't understand this because one, he doesn't want to, and two, he doesn't like black people. He doesn't respect black people. Again, I gave the example. This grown-ass black man was crying on camera when Charlie Kirk got assassinated. But he said he wouldn't cry if his own kid got taken out. He has no sympathy or empathy or understanding for any black person at all. And he wants to know why that family didn't reach out to them. I would have reached out to you either. If I reach out to you, it's going to be something very disturbing that will be talked about or happening. Because I trusted you with my kid, and my kid didn't come back, and you're fine. Man's an idiot.
I've seen messages from Warren's stepmother, Ashley, where she sent Nolan's mom a text saying, please reach out to me whenever you're ready. I would like to talk. Other parents I saw messages from who reached out to Nolan's mom saying, we need to talk. Can we talk? I'm available if you need to talk to us.
Let's pause this for a minute. And this is going to prove my point right here. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, we might not be.
Hang on a sec. Put this up here. There we go.
Yeah, we might not be best friends with everybody, but I promise, if you're talking about Ocean Springs as a whole, Ocean Springs is going to have Ocean Springs back.
Do you get what I'm saying there? Let me play it one more time.
Yeah, we might not be best friends with everybody, but I promise, if you're talking about Ocean Springs as a whole, Ocean Springs is going to have Ocean Springs back.
So if they're from that area and they are fully aware of Ocean Springs and the good old boy system and everything else, because everybody in that town that is white is connected one way, shape, or form or another, you really think? I mean, anyways, let's just continue.
I do not understand at this point why Benjamin Crump would go out and put misinformation out online when he had the availability to talk to these kids and clear these things up like I did before he presented this to the public. We also reached out to Benjamin Crump 4 times. And on the 5th time, they come back and tell us that the family is not doing interviews. We didn't ask to talk to the family.
Why is he so deeply involved in this case and trying to put himself in the middle of it? Why would he be trying to contact Benjamin Crump about on the behalf of these white boys?
We asked to talk to the attorney, Benjamin Crump. Why? So we can come together as a community and solve what happened to Nolan Wells, not create and stoke division, which is what I've seen
Mr.
from
Tatum,
Benjamin Crump.
That is exactly what we're trying to do. And I hear everything you're saying, and you know I think like a prosecutor. My main goal is to find the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. And one thing I cannot get away from is the medical examiner. I'm trying to get to tonight's news, which I'm going to get to, but, you were seeing a video from WLOX. Speaking of sinking, is at an alleged issue with the boat bilge. Well, Randy and Bunny on TikTok have their interpretation.
We're just thinking.
Say anything after the fact. Those boys may be innocent. They can look like choir boys, angels now, but I still don't know what happened on that boat. and I still see conflicts. Can they be reconciled? I hope so. But until they are, care. If an archangel lands on this anchor desk, if he lies to me, I'm using handcuffs.
Now there was a TikTok video, and it's on Twitter and everything else, where it showed like a black man in a circle of white people being thrown around and stuff. And when I saw it, I automatically assumed it was AI, but a lot of people was running with that video, and it's kind of disturbing in multiple ways that people cannot tell the difference between AI and a fake video anymore because we have so much of it. But even if that video clearly wasn't Nolan, but even if it was a real video, who was that man in that video? But we have a lot of race baiters, people that's trying to take advantage of this situation to push a narrative that's not true. But bruising in the back of the head, I remember seeing this on the autopsy initially. That's just screams foul play.
Cuffs for his wrists and a rope for his wings. You hear me? Look at that again. Put it back up. He has deep reddening subcutaneously on the back of his head. Nowhere else. It's not on his neck. The back of his neck anyway. Don't see it on the back. Don't see it anywhere else on the body. So I really don't want to hear a lame explanation that it's lividity of the blood sinking to the back of the body. Number one, the body was on its face. But that said, they kept the neck and the lungs. Lungs to see if he drowned, neck. Why would they keep his neck? I can't get away from this, Joe Sky Morgan, and I don't care how angelic the friends appear, and they may be angels. I don't know that yet. But you can't get away from this, Morgan.
No, you can't, and we can't get away from it until the investigation is concluded on the part of the state medical examiner.
I think everybody knows what's going on here right now. The autopsy is not completed, or it hasn't been released by the state yet. The second autopsy really couldn't be completed because they didn't receive all the body parts. And that's really messed up to say. They didn't receive the missing components. I don't sound any better. They didn't receive all of Nolan. And I've seen multiple people who have done autopsies or working funeral homes. A vast majority of them say that's kind of normal in certain circumstances, but at the exact same time, it just seems weird to me. It seems so weird. And it's not the first time where you see black people get autopsy and organs are missing. But let's go ahead and continue.
Examiner's office and the authority over Nolan. Now, he recorded this, Nancy.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. Customers and $8.
Maintenance fee, overdraft fee, minimum balance fee, maximum balance fee. Banking fees are just...
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me that they all passed, and all of the ones that took a polygraph took one.
Told him, so he didn't see the polygraph, so he just took their word for it again.
Without a lawyer. And so, and they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph test.
Why do you say that's
test,
from
but
what
one.
You understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except
here comes the stuttering.
One, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lie detector test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lie detector test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's not a traditional lie detector test, but it's the same.
So originally it was a lie detector test. Now it's the equivalent of a lie detector test. You know, one of the things you can always do to find out if somebody is lying is let them talk. They'll talk themselves right into a corner every single time whenever they're lying.
Methodology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not.
Did they take a polygraph would be no.
Well, yeah, I think it could be semantics because they took a.
Now, right now, if he was speaking to a black person, he would say, "You stupid Negroes," and he wouldn't say Negroes. And that's what I was saying. He's acting like a little boy right now. If you see anything Tatum when he speaks, especially when he's talking to black people, he's not this calm. He's not this nice. He's a very ugly human being.
Test to analyze whether or not they were being truthful in their statements, and that certified test, they passed it. It just wasn't considered a traditional polygraph. I think it's a more advanced way of doing it.
Brandon Tatum. Hold on.
Now, granted, polygraph tests have been proven to not be the most effective thing out there. There have been multiple ways people have shown they can beat polygraph tests online. So, the technology may have gotten better with time. I don't know. They say polygraphs is more based off confidence than anything else. But, yeah, either way, though, again, on here lying again. Trying to misdirect, mislead, which is still a lie, in my opinion.
A nutshell, Joe Scott. There is a difference between a polygraph, which measures all sorts of body signals, your sweat, your breathing, your heart, your blood pressure, all sorts of things, and an audio verification test. Big difference.
Yeah. So the audio is, you're looking for stressors in the voice, and these people are highly trained to do.
First, brain can't verify. Brainwave analysis. You got all sorts of things. I want a poly.
Right.
I'm not saying they did anything or they didn't do anything. Go, strap up, take me a poly. Officer Tatum, star of the Officer Tatum on YouTube. I've been told, but I can't verify, that the boat in question has been searched by scent dogs and cadaver dogs. Is that true?
I'm not familiar if that's true. Let me just clarify. The test that they took was a voice stress analysis test instead of what we call a traditional.
Okay, he must have pulled out his phone and looked it up in that time frame, or somebody was watching this live and sent him a text message what it was called, because he was completely clueless about the 30 seconds ago.
Polygraph test, but I'm not familiar with the cadaver dog searching the boat. I wasn't informed that that was the case, but I was told by the boys that they did not wash the boat off or do any of those things that they were accused of doing, after this incident.
Right.
And I say, based on all the things that I've heard, it appears that they've been very truthful with me. And law enforcement. They've already communicated with law enforcement very early on.
Okay, Officer Tatum, coming from you, I do give that credence because you were a Tucson PD. I've had people sit down, look me right in the face and lie, and they are so convincing. So I don't know who's telling the truth. I don't know what happened, and that's why I really resent people suggesting the investigation be shut down. We're not doing that until we know what happened. Officer Tatum interviewed multiple of the young men on that boat. Now, let me address what's happened in the last hours. The family...
Any other time, he'll be trying to interrupt somebody. See what I mean?
It's not buying what they are saying, that nothing was deleted. They're not saying they're lying. They're not saying they're telling the truth. They have hit social media giants with subpoenas once and for all to get everything there is to get about Nolan Wells Digital. Okay, straight out to Dr. Jim Jones joining us out of Virginia. Dr. Jones, cybersecurity digital forensics expert, digital forensics program director, associate professor, George Mason University. Okay, can't argue with that. Okay, Dr. Jones, what will the evidence reveal? Let's just start on Nolan Wells' cell phone. Let's start with Snapchat.
Sure. So on his cell phone text message.
Doctor, I felt freaky.
Son, it
hurt. Mainly
a video.
Trying an act.
Stored on
something.
At the
not the all show no.
That is why reception or
a record is created.
Excellent. The ping trail. Okay, back to Officer Tatum, star of the Officer Tatum on YouTube. Did the young men you interviewed, I believe it was 4 of them, state that Nolan did not have reception, or did they explain why there are no pictures, texts, instance, nothing on his
And they still haven't gone back to that damn recording. She didn't make him answer about that.
phone? Did they have an explanation for that?
Yes, ma'am. They didn't mention anything about whether Nolan had service or not, but they articulated the reason why Nolan may not have, certain pictures on his phone. And they had mentioned because Nolan spent the night at their house the night before, because it's traditional for the last few years that they actually went to Horn Island together. But they were saying that they had taken pictures at the house. Some of the pictures that you've seen floating around online were pictures that they took on the boat, but they didn't take those pictures when they got out there to Horn Island because they were having fun. And I would argue that they were drinking, and I couldn't imagine that they want to get underage drinking on camera. So what they had articulated to me that it wasn't abnormal for people not to snap and not to do a lot of pictures and things like that.
There are literally pictures online of them holding drinks in their hand. Now, granted, people that went back and tried to edit and Photoshop the pictures, but there are pictures online don't drink. They didn't give a damn about that. And it's the expectation. I mean, let's be real here. I'm a father myself of an 18-year-old girl. And I tell her all the time, I can't stop you from doing stuff in this world when you go out the store anymore, right? However, I strongly advise you not to do this. I strongly advise you not to do that because if you do get caught, you're going to face real world consequences that I cannot protect you from. And I hear all kinds of stories about things that goes on from younger people when they go out and having fun, and drinking is one of them. And the teenage mind does not really care that much for the most part. Well, let me rephrase that. Some do, if you talk to them enough about it, right? But others, they really don't care. They want something to remember how they were when they're young. I'm pretty sure Tatum had some pictures when he was younger, him drinking underage. It's a normal thing. It's not a right thing in any way, shape, or form, but it's a normal thing. When you're 18, 19 years old and you're out with your friends, you're going to party. You're going to take pictures. You're going to make videos and all kinds of stuff. I can't tell you how much crazy ass shit I saw when I used to work at a photo lab. I can't stand smug. You know what? Never mind. Let me continue.
Because they were focused on
But you
being
told me
off of the
they
mainland.
showed you pictures and videos.
Yeah,
so
but
they
it's
did
not
take
uploaded.
pictures and videos.
No. It's not a lot of pictures and they weren't uploaded. So when you're talking about Snapchat, you're talking about a platform where people are uploading images and pictures to produce to the world. What they showed me were things that they had recorded on their phone, and it wasn't a lot of different things because most of what they did was drinking and having fun in the water. And so, what they had articulated to me as well is that it's not abnormal for people not to snap. It's not abnormal for you not to have your phone. And Nolan wasn't the only person that left his phone on the boat. They also mentioned to me, and you can see it in the interview that they did, was that they had no reason to touch Nolan's phone. They weren't thinking about Nolan's phone when they thought the boat was sinking. And when they got to the house, it was no incident when it comes to Nolan getting the phone back to.
I want to see the doorbell camera footage. That's what I want to see. I hope when they subpoena this stuff, they find a way to get the doorbell camera footage, because in every single one of these homes that I've seen, it appeared to be in like an affluent area, and it's hard for me to believe there is not doorbell camera footage in or around the house. I want to see that. I want to see the parents come up to the door. I want to see the answering of the door and hear the recording of. I know there's got to be something there.
The friend and parent.
You're going far afield from my question. Let me redirect you back to their phones. Nolan has nothing on his phone. They have pictures and videos on their phones. You told me that they exist, whether they posted them or not. So they were taking pictures and videos. Don't you see why the mom Nolan's mom is concerned there's nothing on her son's phone?
And let's just add on to that. Then let's say while he was at the island in the water or on the island itself, let's say he left it on the boat, and that's why he didn't snap at that particular moment. Nolan was very well known to always have his phone in his hand. So I would imagine on the way to the island, he would have had his phone out snapping, taking pictures, or the night before. But there's nothing there for the last 24 hours, they said. So that means the time he was staying the night at their house, all gone. So any pictures show who was all in the house or around with them, they're gone. It's very suspicious, especially when you hear the whole entire Bart and Katie situation in Nolan. If he was around and everything was taken out the phone for the last 24 hours, they'll cover him. So you mean there's no pictures of them staying the night? No pictures of them getting the boat together, them hanging out on the boat, driving up there or riding up there? There's nothing there at all. Now, I can believe and concede the point that when they get to the island, there's no pictures or video. I can believe that. I can accept that. But everything before the island is gone, nah, I'm not a damn fool.
Well, Nancy, it's unclear exactly what the mother is articulating, because at one point she's concerned that there's not a lot of Snapchats or social media posting. She did not articulate, or the Benjamin Crumb did not mention that there's nothing on his phone. So they're not saying that the phone was wiped and there's no images or anything. She was concerned about his social media frequency, which I believe after talking to the boys, it was consistent with what they said, and it was consistent with basic deductive reasoning that maybe he didn't post a lot on that day. So what remains a focus for me, and if I was investigating this
Not
case,
talking about
I
posting.
would want to know.
Not talking about whether he posted, officer.
No,
He didn't
what
even
I'm saying
take
is
anything.
that
There's no pictures. There's no anything.
That's what the mom is saying, but we haven't had an opportunity to either see or hear exactly what she's trying to articulate. Some of the things that she said in the media is that she's talking about posting. I don't believe she said that there was nothing at all on his phone, no pictures, no nothing. But I wasn't able to verify that. So if I was able to see Nolan's phone and the mother was able to show me exactly what she's articulating, I'll be able to have a better perspective in comparison to what Warren and the other boys were telling me. So at this point, I only have one side of it, and then I have a fractured perception from what the media or what the mother is saying in the media. So when the police officers look at his phone and they do a forensic extraction, if they're allowed to do that, they will see plainly if Nolan was on his phone, if he had taken pictures, and if they were deleted. Now, I'll implement this as we begin to try to guess and figure out what was happening on that day. It doesn't seem to be reasonable to suggest that the boys were in his phone deleting things. Now, after hanging out with the boys and getting to know them well, they're very intelligent young men.
Intelligent? Okay.
Very savvy, and they were raised well. I would project.
So Nolan wasn't? So Nolan wasn't raised well? And the reason I bring this up, he later on, after this, he later on continues to say and accuses that Nolan there's something to do with cocaine. There was some hedonism going on out there. He's trying to paint a completely different picture when it comes to Nolan. And the only way that picture could have came out is by his quote unquote friends. This is why I say you gotta listen to these people talk. Because when they say that these people was raised well, the implication is automatically that you weren't. And he goes off to prove that point later.
If I were to make an assumption that if they were trying to cover up something that happened to Nolan, I would perceive that they would throw the phone in the water or something where it never would be recovered. Or if they had access to get into the phone, they wouldn't just delete, they would just completely rewrite the phone or, do a hard reset. Or they wouldn't give the phone back to mama or the family anyway.
This is why this man is slow. Doing a hard reset on a phone doesn't do anything when it comes to forensics. Same thing with deletion too. And then you want to talk about does not give it back at all. Aren't you an officer? Isn't that no one's property? Or he was an officer. Like I said, thank God he's not, because this man is stupid as hell.
So with those factors put in place and what I've talked to them about, it seems as if their story seems consistent to me that they did not get in the phone. They did not know his password. They had no reason to believe that there was a necessity to get in the phone.
Officer,
and they gave it over to the
I'm not saying
family.
you're wrong. I'm saying I'm not taking anybody's word for anything until I investigate it and corroborate it. Again,
That's fair.
maybe they're completely innocent. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Or maybe someone else had something to do with Nolan's death. I don't know, but I will find out. And you said, I don't know what she said exactly. Well, here is what Nolan's mother said.
When we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed, hey Ma, come on, take a picture of me. You know, like he just, that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts.
Okay, to Tanya Jordan, bark, parental control.
So why doesn't she get his reaction? That is so frustrating. So she pretty much to show the club disproves anything he said. She could have went back to him and said, well, what do you think about this? But she goes on to somebody else. This thing is almost over. So, and that's what I mean. That's people say that she humiliated Brandon Tatum, and it's not that hard if you have a little bit of critical thinking. However, though, there are some follow-up stuff that she could have did that could have really destroyed this man's narrative that she didn't do.
Officer and author, do you understand what she just said? I do. Explain it.
Absolutely. When a child dies, every second, every hour, every day is just need for
Dynamite killed in the. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight.
Okay, I'm done with that. That was Nancy Grace. And I went to Benjamin Crump's Instagram page again. Let's see.
That we have the audio from the officials, and we have retained and are consulting with some of the foremost audio engineering experts to review those audio tapes from the CETO call in its entirety. We also, and Attorney Hertz may go into greater detail on these matters, have consulted President Mariel with Oceanic Engineering experts to talk about how these facts are lining up. The fact that they say Nolan's body was found in the same location where they say they left him at. And so we want to know, how is that possible with the oceanic tides? Yeah. We want the experts, I mean, you got low tides and high tides. It's not adding up, so we are going to dot every I and cross every T until we find out what happened to Nolan Wells.
And the unfortunate part is that I believe his name was Kendrick Johnson, the young black student athlete who was in high school, whose body was found rolled up in some mats. And they made the excuse that he was trying to get his shoes through the mat, and he fell in and bled out from being upside down too long. And everybody thought that was complete hogwash. And there was so much to that case. Like the kid that he got into altercation with, father worked for the FBI, his missing organs, things of that nature. It was just really dirty. The whole world, or excuse me, the whole world as I know it was looking and paying attention to that case, and it got swept under the rug. Unfortunately, I have a feeling it's going to be the same thing that happens here, because no matter how much attention you give to this, unless you have a boatload of money, the good old boy system is going to win. That's why I was so happy that the GoFundMe was almost at $1 million the last time I checked. It was like at 700 plus thousand, because I know they're going to need a lot of money to keep fighting and keep going. And eventually, if things get too tight, I know the mother and the father and their other kids may have to relocate to another state, because the good old boy system, unfortunately, is undefeated. Because I say that because it's still here. It's still running things. And the one positive thing I could say about the Nolan Wells situation, it had brought attention to a lot of other cases of people who has unjustly lost their lives. But that's it for now. It's late. I've been on here for over an hour. You guys, if you watched this long, like, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys